One of the main selling points of the Royal Kludge RK96 that I highlighted in my review was the inclusion of a hot swappable PCB, allowing the user to customize the board to their preference using aftermarket switches. So today we're going to be doing just that, along with a couple of other mods to make this keyboard even better. Hey, if you enjoy content like this, drop a like, make sure to subscribe, and smash that bell so you never miss another video. Hey, what is going on guys, Danny here, welcome back to the channel and I hope you've all been doing well. Recently I reviewed the Royal Kludge RK96 mechanical keyboard, and this was a keyboard that got a pretty positive recommendation from me and is hands down my favorite keyboard now for a few key reasons. It has a compact 96% layout while still giving you a number pad, the build quality on it was excellent, it packs a bunch of features like an integrated USB hub, a wrist rest, and 3 methods of connectivity, and on top of all that, it's customizable. Now, what I mean by customizable is that the PCB that they have integrated for this keyboard is hot swappable, where the mechanical switches, in this case the RK Reds, can be removed and swapped for something else without the need for soldering. The market for custom mechanical switches has grown tremendously over the past few years, and I'm finding more and more manufacturers are incorporating these kinds of PCBs in their keyboards to allow users to customize it to their liking. I've just recently gotten interested in the custom mechanical keyboard scene, and I found that there are tons of aftermarket switches, from linears, tactiles, silence, differences in weights, springs, stems, etc. The Royal Kludge RK96 is compatible with 3-pin and 5-pin switches, which allows you to upgrade this keyboard with countless options. I'm a huge fan of linear switches, which is funny because when I bought my first mechanical keyboard, which was the Logitech G710 Plus, it had tactile brown switches, and I thought this was all that I needed, and linear sounded like a switch that I would never like. But after trying them a few years back, almost all of the keyboards I've gotten since then have used linears. So after doing some research and looking at options that are readily available in my region, I ended up settling on the Durock L2 creamy greens, which are of course a linear switch. These switches are the 62 gram variant, and at first I thought that 62 grams might have been a bit too heavy, as most stock Reds I've dealt with have had their weight ranges from 40 to 55 grams, but they turned out just fine, and I'll expand on that a bit more later on the video. These switches have a very high quality feel to them. They are designed with a smooth palm linear stem, a transparent polymer nylon lower housing, which is great if you'll be using them with a backlit PCB, and they come factory lubed, which I know most will recommend lubing the switches yourself by hand, but hey, I guess that's better than nothing. Along with the switches, I decided, hey, this keyboard could use a bit of spark in the aesthetics department. The stock look is fine, it's pretty clean, but I had something else in mind. One of the negatives that I pointed out in my review was that the keycaps Royal Kludge used felt pretty cheap. They're using these white ABS keycaps which had a slightly gritty texture to them, and the plastic was quite thin. Therefore, I picked up this keycap set from AKKO. This is their Macaw double shot PBT keycap set, and let me tell you, these are some really high quality keycaps. First of all, the color scheme here is absolutely fantastic. I think a white frame with shades of blue will match very well. And this keycap set has some blue, navy blue, yellow, and turquoise color keycaps included, so you can customize your keyboard with various color tones and make it look outstanding. Just holding the keycaps and you can really tell how high quality it feels. The plastic is thick, it feels very durable, and I think these will be a tremendous improvement over the stock keycaps. Lastly, you might have been wondering what that giant roll of tape was for, and this is because we'll be applying the tape mod to this keyboard. This is a mod that started gaining popularity over the past year. It's a pretty simple mod, but surprisingly it's very effective and economical because you can find masking tape for a few bucks anywhere. Chances are you probably have some laying around in your house. All you do is apply masking tape to the back of the PCB, and what this does is that it creates a more profound sound profile and adds a bit of thockiness as well. It's hard to explain, but I've seen videos of the results this mod can do, and it really sounds satisfying. If you're someone who's trying to reduce typing noise, then I don't recommend this mod. So we're going to be applying the tape to the PCB and swapping out the switches for Durock L2s, and then installing the keycaps. Altogether, this should really make this keyboard feel and sound much better. Well, let's get to it then. The first thing that I did was that I started to remove the keycaps. Now, when I unboxed the RK96, included in the box there was a keycap and switch puller, a very handy tool that will allow us to do this. The reason why I wanted to do this was because 1, I need to get access to the switches, and 2, there were screws holding down the faceplate into the frame of the keyboard, so I needed to access those as well. Removing the keycaps was a pretty simple and straightforward process. I used the side of the material with the wires and got them directly underneath the keycaps, and then you just pull up and they come right off. You can see I'm basically going row by row here, working my way through. Just wanted to take my time, not end up breaking anything. Obviously, with the power of editing, I'll speed this up for you guys so you're not bored. It got a bit tricky with some of the wider keycaps, but the wires are flexible so you can just readjust as needed. Once the keycaps were all off, it was time to remove the stock red switches. It's basically the same concept as when we were removing the keycaps, although you just want to be careful here and take your time. You don't want to break a switch in the process. On the top and bottom of the switch, there are these grooves that you can slide the switch puller into. I found that the top and bottom rows were a little bit difficult to remove as the border of the frame was kind of preventing me from getting the tool all the way down there, but with some patience and the right positioning, I was able to make it work. Alright, so with the switches out of the way, the next step was to remove the screws that are holding down the faceplate to the frame. There were a total of 11 Phillips head screws that needed to be removed. I used a driver from a precision screwdriver kit I had with a Phillips 2 magnetic bit. Having a magnetic parts tray or something to place the screws in will definitely come in handy, as these are tiny screws and you don't want to end up losing them. Once the screws were all removed, I used a plastic wedge to pry up the faceplate from the frame. I was using the edges here and was making my way around. I did notice though it had quite the snug fit, so it was a little bit difficult to remove, and as I was doing this, I did encounter quite a bit of difficulty. It got to the point where I felt like I was forcing it out too much, and the PCB started to flex. And then I realized, oh, I forgot to take out a screw. Once I did that, the PCB easily came out. Now, when you lift a PCB from the frame, you want to do it slowly as there were some cables attached, and the wires are quite thin, so you don't want to be reckless here and end up ripping a cable. Once that was done, the PCB was completely detached and I could begin the taping process. The masking tape process is pretty simple. What I did was just cover up the whole entire PCB with a layer, firmly pressing down on it to make sure it's sticking firmly to the PCB. The nice thing about masking tape is that it's fairly easy to remove, so if you do need to undo this later, you can. Now with this mod, I've seen different variations of it, where some people only apply 1 layer, some recommend 3. I've even seen some people apply as much as 6 layers. So I decided to choose 3 layers here. After I had finished applying the first layer, I took a razor and carefully cut out the parts that were covering the connectors. I used a precision screwdriver with a thin shaft to poke holes through the screw holes, so that will make my life easier when I have to screw the PCB back into the frame. After I had completed the first layer, it was just a matter of repeating all the steps again for the second and third layers. After, it was time to put the PCB along with the faceplate back into the frame and screw it down. This process became a bit concerning because as I was trying to put it back in, I was having trouble. The board didn't seem like it wanted to go all the way through, and I thought, oh no, was that because it became too thick for the case? I pressed on though, worked my way around, and eventually I was able to get it into place. Then I just had to secure the PCB with some screws. Moving on, we can finally install our new Durock L2 switches. Like removing the switches, this was also really easy. You just have to align the pins with the holes and then place them right in. They should go in very easily with little to no force. Now, before I installed the new keycaps, I wanted to test out the switches using an online keyboard tester to ensure everything was working properly. I recommend doing this so that if there isn't a switch working, it can be easily removed rather than having to remove a keycap, then remove the switch. I was, however, shocked to find out that I had 15 switches that weren't working. At first, I was quite displeased to see this. I thought maybe I had messed up something or damaged something in the process, or is the quality control on these switches that bad? This was not what I wanted to see because I only had like 4 switches left over, so I decided to do a bit of investigating, remove the switches that weren't working, and well, it looks like I had messed up. Upon further inspection, it looks like I had ended up bending the pins on these switches when installing them. I guess I didn't properly align them. Thankfully, none of the switches had the pins broken off, so I just had to use a pair of tweezers to bend them back, and then a needle nose pliers to straighten them out. That was all I needed to do, and I could finally breathe a sigh of relief as all of the installed switches were working. Once that was all sorted out, I installed the new keycaps. I didn't really bother recording this part because it's just really more of the same. And here's the final look of the keyboard. I think this turned out amazing. I was very happy with the choice of the colorway, and with the white frame of the keyboard, it matches very well. The keycaps themselves give off a very premium look, and they feel just as good to type on. As you can see, for the alphanumeric keys I had used the blue keycaps with the turquoise lettering, and then for the special keys I used the turquoise keycaps with the blue lettering. Some inverse coloring action going on there, which is really nice. And then there's a touch of some navy blue. The only downside to these keycaps is because they're double shot PBT, they have zero shine through for the LEDs. For me, and I'm sure for the vast majority of people, it's not a huge deal because if you've been typing for a while now, then you're probably not looking at your keyboard while typing. Overall, they're amazing looking keycaps, they're durable, and they feel very good to type on. Finally, let's do a sound test. I'll play a clip of the RK96 when it was bone stock, and then we'll listen to the test with these mods applied. As you guys just heard, there was a tremendous improvement on how the keyboard sounds. Don't get me wrong, when it was stock, it didn't sound terrible, but it wasn't great either. It sounded hollow, clacky, scratchy, and high-pitched. Then, once we applied these mods, you can tell how it sounded richer, deeper, and a lot more thockier, which is exactly the sound I was going for. As for how they felt, that was also a huge improvement. The higher weight definitely took some time to get used to, but they're not scratchy at all, they feel very smooth and consistent compared to the stock RK Reds. To sum it up, I was already quite happy with the Royal Kludge RK96, but because of its ability to be customized like this, I'm sure that Royal Kludge knew that this is a keyboard that will get even better once users apply their own mods to it. That's exactly what my experience has been. I absolutely love using this keyboard now. Typing on it feels so satisfying to me that it's basically motivating me to get working on other drafts and scripts for my other videos, or just dabbling in online typing tests. If you're interested in picking up the RK96, these switches, and or the keycaps, I'll have some affiliate links in the video description for you guys. So that will do it for this customization video. Overall, this turned out just the way I wanted it to. If you guys found this video to be informative and entertaining, then leave a like. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Be sure to check out the video description for cool links and ways to support the channel, such as using my Amazon affiliate link. And if you're interested in seeing more content like this, then consider subscribing, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.